What's up, everybody? We're back. Yes. Thanks for being patient. We've been away for the past week and a half, hurricanes and some health issues, but all is well on the home front for both Anthony and I. And welcome in here on a special Tuesday at 4 o'clock. We felt like we've been off for so long. We got to have one. So here we are. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Thanks for checking into our Traded Black podcast. Lots to uncover over the past week and a half, including Kamala Harris. Latest news and rumors from last week's big capital conference Benzinga hosted in Chicago. As well, we take a look at the ETF PSIL. Got a few comments going on right now in this company called Bright Minds Bioscience. Wow. Somebody made a lot of money. So let's get into today's podcast. Welcome in, Anthony Varell. Good to see you, Mr. Weatherman. How's the weather in Florida?
It's I think it's actually raining. It's good. We survived the hurricane. Milton came and went, and South Florida was spared again.
You like that shirt, Mackenzie?
We've gotten pretty lucky.
Yeah, it's did you guys get hit at all? That much? Like, obviously the state did, but where you were?
I mean, my dogs were going nuts all night. There was like 30 to 40 mile per hour winds. But no, nothing really crazy. No crazy rain. Couple branches fell down from my trees, and that was pretty much it.
That was it. Well, leading up to it, it sounded like it was going to be pretty bad, but there was other states. Milton, I saw where the Rays play Tampa Bay. That roof was ripped off in Tampa. They got hit.
It's a piece of shit stadium. If I'm speaking frankly,
greatest thing that happened in that stadium.
That thing needs to get torn down. But the reason why I was freaked out about it and why I missed Benzinga is because in the past, storms move. So if Milton would have shifted and came across South Florida, we would have gotten just beaten by it. But yeah.
How many miles?
Helene was worse.
When you get to the southern point of Florida, from the Gulf Coast to like the ocean side, is it 150 miles? Is that wide?
I think it's less. I think it's like 110.
Okay.
From Fort Lauderdale to Naples is like 92 miles, I think.
Yeah. Well, you and a ton of Florida people did not make it to Chicago last week for obvious reasons. But you know who did? Was Dan Ahrens from AdvisorShares. So let's welcome him here on a special Tuesday. Legalize marijuana.
No, marinara.
Oh.
Isn't that what Kamala Harris said? Or did she say something else? What?
Legalize marinara for Italians only.
Shad, I thought I was wearing a pretty cool shirt.
You wore that shirt before I made a mistake.
No, you are winning, Shad. I like that shirt.
You like that? Yeah, I saw this place up in northern Michigan when I was there in the summertime, and I saw this shirt in the front window, and I'm like, done. I got to keep this one out time and time again. But yeah, it's a beauty. How you been? What'd you think of the conference last week?
It was good stuff. I was relieved to not be on stage. We had the great Mackenzie Peterson on stage. I was just able to hang out, have some dinner, talk to executives, say hi to a lot of people. It was good.
Yeah.
I'd say, and I know this has already been talked about, but we keep using the same phrase of cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
It's the general tone of the meeting. A lot of people were afraid to say a lot of things out loud, except, keep doing what they're doing without anticipating any changes. But everybody's cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. Hemp was a big topic too. Mergers and acquisitions, a lot of companies looking on the private side. You're going to see a lot of that, I think, as well as some of the dialogue that I received. But a lot of people from Florida not there. But all in all, it's still a good conference. We get the biggest names. Obviously, it would have been great to have the people from Florida there as well. But saw Jason Wild. He was in to speak and then straight on a plane come, Tuesday morning back to Florida. But when did was it Tuesday, Wednesday it hit last week, Anthony?
Wednesday evening was when it started to get hairy. We started to get gusts coming in Wednesday afternoon. Yeah. And then it was all night going into Thursday morning.
Did you speak to Brady? Because I know he didn't make it, but everything good with his farm?
I did. Brady's farms are all intact.
That's great.
I think they might have had one or two locations that were down for a couple days on the West Coast, as did Trulieve and Verano. But everybody that I talked to, all their facilities were fine and weathered the storm.
That's good. Great to hear. Marcus Smith writes, true marinara is sauteed with cannabis. Nice. What do you think? Might be a little different, but hey, why not? All right, let's begin. Big news, obviously, yesterday involving Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris, who announced that she's pledging to federally legalize cannabis, ensuring that access to cannabis is, quote, the law of the land. So if she's elected, she would look to break down unjust legal barriers that hold Americans back by legalizing marijuana nationally and working with Congress to ensure that the safe cultivation, distribution, and possession of recreational marijuana, as I said, is the law of the land. This was reported by Tom and the crew over at Marijuana Moment. Anthony, we've talked about this for quite some time as to when we will hear from the Harris administration. Well, we have now. First question, straight up. It's vague, but it's good that she made an announcement. Do you believe her?
So I think it's great that she made an announcement. Do I believe her in the context that she made this announcement as it relates to being a black issue? I don't think that's a function of believing. I think it's a function of she just made cannabis a race issue. It's great that she's talking about cannabis, but cannabis is not a black issue. Cannabis is a people issue.
Yep.
Yes, the black and brown communities have been overly policed, and they have been a victim of the war on drugs in this country. So, I mean, sure, there are some wrongs that need to be righted, but it's not a black issue. Like, this is a weird time for her to come out with this and just come out with, hey, this is my black opportunity agenda, legalize cannabis. I don't think it's genuine. I think it's pandering. Is she saying cannabis so everyone's celebrating? Yeah, that's great. She can't legalize cannabis on her own. I mean, I think everyone needs to remember that. It's going to either be legislative or administrative. Administrative, we already have cooking. The ALJ hearings on December 2nd.
Yep.
We're going to have our day in court, and that process is going to go out. Legislative, unless there's a blue wave that takes the House, Senate, and the executive branch, cannabis legalization from a legislative potential is not getting done. It's just a pipe dream. I would rather her come out with plans and come out with a plan of action that says, this is what I'm going to do for the black and brown community as it relates to cannabis reform. This is what I'm going to do for the black and brown community as it relates to criminal justice reform.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a leg up in these scenarios. You are going to be prioritized in, like I said, the wrongdoings that have been, the wrongdoings of your communities that have been affected. But the way that she said this, in the context that she said it, I couldn't agree with less. And I would actually love to hear from members of the black community what they think about the way that she is conveying this message. Because the other thing that she said in the statement was, which I thought was completely off base, protect cryptocurrency investments so black men who make them know their money is safe. What is she trying to say? That they're not financially literate? I would find that statement offensive if that was being said towards me. I think that this has backfired on her. Like I said, I don't really like the frame of reference that she's using with cannabis, with crypto, and this whole agenda, but that's kind of just my 2 cents on the scenario.
Danny brings up some good points, and to play devil's advocate, I'm sure people watching this to say, well, what are 3 white guys? How can they comment on something like this when, you know, they don't really understand maybe the other side of the aisle, so to speak. But is this in any way, like, are you concerned at all with why she took this long to make an announcement? Or are we looking at this differently, saying, hey, look, she's made an announcement. We've talked about incremental steps before. Maybe this is the first step of a number of things to happen. Like, how do you look at this?
Yeah. Well, Anthony gave a lot more than 2 cents. He gave at least 5 or 10 cents worth. But
which would turn into
I agree with what Anthony said. But you know, let's be positive. We still have 2 presidential candidates saying positive things about cannabis reform, which is huge. Let's not underweight that. A lot of people were saying that Kamala Harris was not saying anything about any policies for a pretty long time.
Yes.
And, we're all, dreaming that, cannabis is such an important thing that she surely has to say something. Well, I think I heard the word pandering, and
we're 3 weeks from the election. 3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, and look at what the polls have, the way they've moved in the past week against her to a large extent.
Yeah.
So
is she desperate? And I don't want people to start thinking we're leaning towards one way or another.
No.
All we want is the narrative to be pushed forward, regardless of whether it's Republican or Democrat. We just want cannabis to move forward. I will continue to reiterate that, because as much as I like what Donald Trump said, there's still a lot of unknowns who his attorney general is going to be. And there's a lot of 100%. Unknowns whether anything is going to move even with him. But the reality is that, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm on record.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Joe. I was going to say, I think there's the way you have to frame it It's paramount. I mean, the way that she framed this is trash. Give us something realistic. Saying that I'm going to legalize cannabis for the Black community, I think everyone saw through it, everybody included. What she can talk about the rescheduling process that's already been underway. She can talk about the criminal justice reform that she had in the White House with Fat Joe. She can talk about, she was a co-sponsor of the MORE Act. She can talk about things that she's done. She has substantive talking points on cannabis, but to make a blanket statement that just says I'm going to legalize it for the Black community as a point in my opportunity campaign, I just don't see that as being the least bit genuine whatsoever.
Mark, yeah, and it was made in the same statement as the cryptocurrency statement, and $20,000 of free money that's forgivable loans only if you're a Black man, though. So
that's
I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, but the other thing everybody needs to remember, again, I started off positive here that we have two presidential candidates both saying very much positive things about cannabis. What was in Joe Biden's actual platform at this time 4 years ago? It was cannabis reform. It was legalization or decriminalization. It was no one should go to jail for smoking. And here we are 4 years later.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing we need to talk about here. Or was this really a big statement? I think we've discounted that a little bit, but it ain't bad. I like her saying something. But what are stock prices doing in cannabis?
Yeah.
Well,
nothing.
The volumes are anemic, even in the fund. Come on, we all know everybody is waiting. Everybody is waiting till at least November 5th, and then we'll have more conversations.
Yeah. TDR's Traded Black podcast here on a Tuesday, October 15th, a little after 4 o'clock. Love to ask the big question. Anthony, Dan, who do you prefer, Trump or Harris for cannabis? Dan, I'll begin with you.
Oh, there you go.
You want to go there?
I will say, and I've said this before, that the immediate bump will be just like when Biden won. Cannabis stocks went way up. So if Harris wins, we're going to see a bump in cannabis stocks because of the general public.
Okay.
If we dig a little bit deeper, Trump, we're not going to see that immediate bump just because he won in cannabis stocks. No way. I don't see it as a big negative. I think he's been educated up and he said the right things about states' rights and medical and 3 on Florida and lots of other things. So not a negative, but in the public perception, Harris is a definite win for cannabis stock prices only.
Anthony, you agree with that?
I agree with Dan. Earlier, I did say, though, that both candidates I think are full of shit. The Democrats have let us down time after time. The GOP is the party of prohibitionists.
Yeah.
Either of them could drive progress just as easily as either of them could be blowing smoke up our asses. That's word for word what I said earlier. There's only one way to find out. I mean, one of them is going to get put in the office. We're going to find out what's going to happen.
Yep.
I cannot say that I prefer either candidate right now, as I think they both have their positives, as they've actually said stuff. If you want to go on track record, Kamala has actually done things that are tangible or been a part of things that were tangible. Such as the HHS review, rescheduling, and like I said, she was a co-sponsor of the MORE Act. Trump, he's saying all the right things. Like we've said, it all matters who the AG is and who goes in at the DOJ, as well as the DEA head. I don't know that. You don't know that. Dan doesn't know that. No one knows it. It's a crapshoot. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a pure crapshoot, and I don't think you can really say you prefer one or the other because we really don't know what they're going to do. The only thing that we do know that's for certain is we have the ALJ hearing, and the rescheduling process is going to get rolled out. Yep. That's probably going to happen, which we're lucky that that's administrative and that doesn't have to be done legislatively.
Fred Gans writes, sadly, you three shouldn't have to even bring up the not on the other side of the aisle type statement. Fair point, but I'm just answering some of the feedback and comments that people have made over the last couple of weeks and months. But, you know, at the end of the day, fair enough. Everybody has their own opinion. But One thing I do want to know or ask is moment of truth time comes for Amendment 3. What are the latest poll numbers in Florida? What are they showing?
Oh, so someone actually posted, Can Investments actually posted something about it, I think like 10 minutes ago. If you take the blend of the numbers that are coming out, and then you also add in the undecideds, which Hirsch has been really good at empirically stating, it comes somewhere between the low to mid 60s as to where it's polling now. I think 3 is a slam dunk. If 3 doesn't get passed, I will be shocked.
How are you handling this leading up to the election? You know, because how will these stocks perform? You've talked about, regardless of who's in office, it's really not going to have that kind of impact. But however, when we look at Amendment 3 and the Florida players, and this does get actually approved come election night, do you think if these numbers stay around the low to mid 60s, we'll build some momentum going into November 5th? Or do you think if it actually does pass, that you'll see a rush not until after the election, Dan?
I don't think we're going to see much in the way of cannabis volumes, trading, anything like that until we see the election.
Yeah.
I think we could see potentially a really, really nice pop in these stocks. And I'll remind everybody, what has happened multiple times in the past when Biden won, when the Georgia runoffs, everything else, when news has come out. Do we still need uplisting? Do we still need custody? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's another leg up whenever all that comes about. I think when we see yes on 3 passing, not before, and we see the any kind of actual news come out after the hearings in the first week of December,
that
could be a nice pop. So, we need custody, we need volume, we need uplisting, but we could see a really nice pop in these stocks. I'm hoping here when we get that election. And I've heard lots of positive polling too that makes it seem like we're pretty solid, at least in the mid 60s.
Did hear that a lot last week too. We're trying to get actually Senator Joe Gruters on to talk a little bit about that. We've reached out to his team. He actually responded to us DM on Twitter, said, you know what, glad to be on any given time. So it's just a matter of connecting. So we keep you guys updated. Gord, thanks for the update too. 64%, baby. And don't look now, but what are we? 6 weeks away from that ALJ hearing? Like, where does time go? We're already in the middle of October. So
we haven't heard anything to the negative that doesn't make it think that the rescheduling is going to move through just fine. It's just not top of mind anymore.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I get you.
The only thing we've heard was positive. The DEA said that the 2-step process was legitimate.
Yeah,
that's the only thing that we've heard since the ALJ hearing was announced, and that is a big net positive. And then I don't think 3 passing is going to be some meteoric event for the stocks. I mean, I think that you also need to. There's going to be a 6-month implementation window, and I don't think that people should forget that companies that are affiliated with the Yes on 3 campaign have got a little bit litigious in the past couple of weeks. And the parties that they're litigiously acting towards are also going to have, let's say, the last say as far as implementation and the fine tuning of the bill goes. So even if it does get passed on November 5th by a wide margin, let's say 66, 67%, the will of the people is spoken, but there's some other things and some nuance to what that actual implementation will look like. Come 6 months down the line.
Irish Avenger looks like he's holding the bat a little tight. Stop it now. You're all jinxing it. And then Mohammed Shaheen writes, Anthony V, can the DEA overturn the hearing and reschedule? Like, can that come from left field? Not from my understanding.
I have no idea. There's not going to be any Hail Marys or anything that's going to interject into this process to make it more expeditious than what it already is. This process is not going to be short. They're going to take their time. I honestly think that the entire process from December 2nd on probably going to take somewhere between 6 to 8 months.
Barada Tajuka writes, Trump needs to make one more statement. I like RFK here to help get something done. Kim Rivers got in his ear. Fair points, but a lot of speculation there.
Why does he need to say anything? He already did, and it's not a top issue for him.
You're not going to hear a word.
No.
You're not going to hear a word from him about cannabis.
No.
Forward.
You know,
that his his statements are done.
All right. Speaking of word, what was the word on the street as we switch now to the Benzinga Capital Conference in Chicago last week? I did get a chance to sit on and Boris Jordan. He was talking a lot about, just where we are in the industry right now. And one of the things he said, look, there's still tremendous upside. There is going to be risk involved, but the best way to manage that risk is obviously diversifying. Cue hemp. And hemp was a hot topic conversation in this entire conference for the full 2 to 3 days. A lot of cannabis beverages launching hemp brands that are already in states right now. This is a huge trend that is going to build more and more momentum in 2025. But what are you smiling at? What are you laughing at?
Trump will be selling shoes after the election.
Oh my God. Yeah. But that was no surprise. That was a big surprise. But did you get a chance to see his speech at all, Dan, at all when Boris spoke?
Yeah, sure. I was in the room for Boris's speech. Yeah.
What was your big takeaway? Because he's pretty accurate when it comes to diversifying, but I know there's been price compression as far as consumers. We can get into that topic because the whole economy right now as to where it sits. But this is a big trend that's not going to go away. And I see more and more companies definitely getting into this space, a lot of the pubco companies. And you could probably see a lot of mergers and acquisitions with private companies. Do you not think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like the fact that Curaleaf did what they did with their the hemp company. But everybody needs to remember it's a tiny piece of revenue. But it's them thinking, okay, this is probably going to get solved over the next year or two. There's going to be some fixing of the farm bill hemp, and a lot of states cracking down on it already. So smart move by Curaleaf. If we all knew then what we know now, I think all the cannabis companies would have done it a couple of years ago.
No kidding.
But no one thought we would be where we are now with the hemp products suddenly taking off like they were. Boris also talked a lot about Europe, and another, I think, smart move by Curaleaf to embrace Europe early, which we don't have the other cannabis stocks in the U.S. doing so much.
Yeah. I didn't hear a lot about Europe other than that speech all that much, but again,
just Boris.
Yeah, it was definitely a topic of conversation was just hemp and whore hemp, and all it takes is one to find a loophole with this farm bill. But it was still nice to see, obviously, the amount of people that were there and a lot of the thinking minds in the space right now, so as far as some of the most influential people were there. But still tremendous upside. I guess that's the positive and takeaway that I got from being there only for a day. I had to jet out real fast. I had some other things I had to take care of. But all in all, it seemed like there's a lot of optimism and hopefulness going into 2025 with obviously rescheduling and other things, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Here comes our third topic, and it's an interesting one. What is going on with Bright Minds Bioscience? Like, this is
everybody
insane.
Wants to know.
So this stock is up. What did it finish off today, Anthony? It's up how much?
It popped at the end of the day, too.
It's up 1,445% on the day. So roughly 15x.
Oh my God. So 10 grand would get you basically 150 G's, just like that.
10 grand would have got you 150 G's.
Got to give the quick plug here. It is now the largest holding by far in a little fund, ticker symbol PSIL.
So here we are on a Tuesday, and we talk to people that own ETFs that have daily performances of 95%. Was that your ETF was up 95% today alone? So what is
99%?
99.48%. That's
a good day.
Pop going into the close. So Dan, what do you do in a scenario like that? Are there any things that you have to do as far as waiting goes if something balloons like that within the holdings?
Not really. Have to do. The fund always has certain 1940 Act and Internal Revenue Code, lots of. But if a stock does it by appreciation rather than buying, then it is meeting most of its concentration and diversification rules. A better question is what do you do as a portfolio manager? So I often remind people these funds are all actively managed. Actively managed doesn't mean I'm trading it every darn day. It doesn't mean it's a tactical strategy. It simply means it's not an index that you have to follow the index and what it is. I can avoid stocks. I can overweight stocks, underweight stocks, whatever. So I'm watching this thing yesterday and it was up about 120%. And I'm thinking, okay, this is bright minds. This is drug. Do I want to trim some off the top of this thing on such a big day? And that's strictly a PM decision. And I thought, nope, you let your winners run. Sometimes you got to let your winners run. You got to let them grow. But then it becomes a question the next day when this thing's going up a lot again.
Yep.
And, we're searching for information. We're putting calls into the company. We're searching wherever we can find.
What did close at?
As of right now, this seems to be a GameStop type of thing. I don't know what else. We might have some news come out in the next 24 hours, and they're doing a great job of keeping it if it's non-public info.
I mean, there's 4.5 million shares outstanding, and it traded 100 million shares today.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So this was a $1 stock 5 days ago. What did it close at today?
It's up three. It closed at $38. It's up it's up over 3,000% in the last 5 days.
This is a retail investor's greatest stress. Do I chase it and buy? Because $38 is pretty cheap when you look at GameStop. Would it go to $400?
Well, it's not even that. On a market cap basis, the stock's only worth $14 million. Right. So $38. I mean, to have a NASDAQ listed stock with a 4.5 million share float, that's what can happen. 1,500% in a day.
Yeah. So everybody, this is the learning moment. You actually have to look at the company underneath the ticker symbol. It is not just a trading number that you can push around. You have to decide, is there any way in hell this could possibly be worth anywhere in this vicinity, and then make decisions from there.
Yeah, because if this did this on no news, stock doesn't move like that unless someone knows something. And if someone knew something and it did that, someone's getting their door knocked on.
But hey, looking at the fund PSIL, which is now the only truly psychedelics ETF in the United States available. And I got to remind people, there's a lot of overlap to cannabis. We talk about mental health. We talk about alternative treatments. We talk about, going up against big pharma, things like this. But otherwise, these are like biotech stocks. They trade on their IP. They trade on their FDA pipelines. It's a lot different than talking about, real cash flow that you see with GTI and Verano and TrueLeaf and everybody else. So that's where they're different. But I'm looking at the number 4 holding in the fund right now, Clear Mind Medicine, up 12.77%.
Yeah.
Nice day. IXHL up 9%. So there's some green shoots in here. This fund has had a hard time for the last couple of years. Psychedelics have been a really tough place to invest. So
just a tad.
Can this breathe some life into it? Can some of this be sticky? I don't know. We'll see.
What was that reverse split that Cybit announced? What was it, 3 weeks ago? 38-1.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I think it's a tie. It's flirting with dropping below $1 on the NASDAQ, and they're beginning
$1.09 right now.
Yep. $1.09.
Ties at $1.09. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they're starting to sell off some of their position to Compass. So what do you think that means? Who knows?
They did that a couple weeks back.
Did they?
Yeah.
Lots to look at right now, but T-minus 3 weeks from tonight is the U.S. federal election, and all eyes are going to be on the U.S. that night and who wins what, and all eyes will be on Florida as well. And I'm sure Miss Kim Rivers, and I know there was you guys were away when I actually covered it a week and a half ago with I forget who the guest was on, but just regarding the lawsuit that Kim put out. And there's a lot of stuff we don't know. And but But it was a very, I think it was a controversial announcement. Let's face it, that there's a lot of misinformation. But in a situation like that, when you look at it, is that the right thing to do? I don't know if that's the right question to ask, but in that event, it's just like there's a lot of misinformation, and those are the days and times that we live in right now, because DeSantis, like I said, has really, and his crew have put together a lot of misleading information. And from a PR perspective, something like that is definitely going to grab attention for your initiative, which may not be a bad move either.
Yeah, I had one of my buddies this weekend text me. He's like, "So, am I voting yes on 3, or should I vote yes on 3?" I go, "Yeah, you should vote yes on 3." He goes, "But it doesn't allow home grow." I go, "You're never going to grow cannabis at home. Why does that matter to you?"
I know.
And why are you even bringing it up as a talking point?
I know.
Vote yes on 3. We get recreational cannabis in Florida. It gets decriminalized, and it gets dropped from being a class 3 felony. And that's it. You're not going to grow cannabis at home, and you shouldn't care if you grow cannabis at home.
I know.
Unless you really do want to grow it at home, and you'll be able to down the road. I mean,
I've said this time and time again. This sounds like deja vu all over in Canada, going back 6-7 years ago. This was the hottest topic and most controversial. And guess what happens? Even for some of the guys that grow their own weed out in the outback, as far as countryside, and got the land to do it and all that sort of stuff, you got to do it year over year over year. And if there's a legal dispensary down the road and you do last minute plans, guess what? That is what's flourishing. And it's
Irish Avenger just nailed it. People that are growing at home, they don't care about the law. They're growing at home right now either way. I can guarantee you that. No one that wants to grow cannabis in their own house in 2024 is waiting on the laws in Florida to catch up.
Yeah.
And do you know who else doesn't care about if you're growing it at home? True Leaf and Verano. No, your weed in your closet home grow is not impacting their business at all.
No.
So do you guys think with this announcement, like what was, with the yes on 3 and the people behind it, and by making this, is this good for the initiative to draw attention? You want to stay away from that question. I don't blame you.
I said it. I already covered it about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I was saying the litigious nature of some of the groups that are involved. Want to definitely make sure that it doesn't come back to bite them when we talk about implementation of the bill.
Yeah. Well,
Brady was pretty vocal about that.
Yeah. All right. Half an hour in. I think that's it for today, but this has been great to get back. One last question. We had this a couple times. After watching the Monday night game last night, I don't think it really matters that Devontae Adams is reunited with Aaron Rodgers. Jets have got issues. They got a lot of holes. I don't think anybody is beating the Baltimore Ravens with Derrick Henry. They got off to a slow start in the season, but Baltimore, it's so sad to see what happened to Aiden Hutchinson over the weekend. He looked like
that game last night, though. The Bills didn't win that game. The Jets lost.
It was a sloppy game.
Yeah, but
big step in the right direction. I think that drops the Jets to 2-4. So that's a big hole to climb out of.
I needed the Jets to beat the Bills so the Dolphins have some sort of chance. God forbid Tua comes back.
But check out the NFC North. The worst team in that division is 4-2. What a division this year. But that's going to be a heck of a division for years to come. I don't know what Minnesota's doing with their head coach and Sam Darnold, but he looks like he could be NFL MVP the way he's playing. But good old football season, and don't sleep on baseball, man. We could be seeing a Yankees-Dodgers World Series, but I'm sure Mets fans are going to argue that one.
Quentin, I saw you ask that question like 5 times. I don't even know what Epic Universe is, to be completely honest. So that's completely. I'm completely stumped.
Just read it now. The Dank Informer. Love always hearing from you, my friend. Amendment 3 has a stipulation that it has to be implemented within 6 months, around May or June of 2025. I think the Florida constitutional deadline is July 1st for a ballot amendment implementation as well. Well said.
Glad to
know that.
But that doesn't mean it cannot get augmented via whatever going up to implementation.
So maybe explain a little bit further. Say that again.
The bill can get the bill itself.
Yep.
Can get changed going up into implementation. I don't think it's going to, but I mean, they could say, hey, we want to put a crazy tax on recreational cannabis, so roll it out and good luck having people buy it.
So hence stay on the Republicans' good side if they basically win come election night in the state of Florida, correct?
Well, I think the litigious nature of some groups might have.
Trains left the station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amendment 3 is going to pass. Amendment 3 is going to pass, and it's going to get implemented in the Florida Constitution, and we'll all be better off for it. And we'll all be sitting here buying legal cannabis or recreational cannabis in the state of Florida come 7 months down the line. I mean, I don't think DeSantis is going to fuck with the bill, especially if it's a 66% majority. He says a lot of things, but I do think that he will do what the people of Florida demand. And if it gets voted for in those kind of numbers, the people obviously want recreational cannabis in the state of Florida.
Yeah. Mitch writes reclassification will lead to SAFE, which will allow either president to move forward, in my humble opinion. The Dank Informer, another comment. Trump's endorsement of Amendment 3, safe banking and federal cannabis reform has more sway for Republican votes. If we truly want descheduling and federal legalization, we need Republicans on board, is what he writes.
Who wrote that?
That was the Dank.
Now, I want to make some pretty unpopular little statements.
Yeah, go ahead.
Safe. No one wants to talk about safe. There's whispers out there.
I heard this.
Depending on what happens with the election, and if Democrats are on the way out, or we're looking at a split Congress, which is looking pretty likely. There could be in the lame duck with these people that are going to be losing their seats. It could rear its ugly head again. I'm not going to say more than that, but
I did hear that
apparently in play.
I had somebody reach out to me and say, are you hearing anything about safe banking and lame duck? And I was just like, other than the time I was in Washington, I said probably the Hail Mary opportunity is if we see Republicans control both the House and Senate, but outside of that, nothing. And person got back to me and basically said, I'm hearing some really strong rumors that it could happen during lame duck. I asked name, would not reveal it. So once nobody wants to reveal a name.
Well, I've heard that the split Congress also makes it look very good, but I don't know. No one wants to talk about safe. I've always been of the opinion of after rescheduling, it makes it much less controversial and much easier for people to do.
Yeah.
I will celebrate safe when safe gets passed.
Correct. You are correct, sir.
Mark Landers actually wrote something earlier. Kamala, she's at 45% with young black men. She's pandering to them is what Mark is basically saying. But 3 weeks, to me, it's a vague statement as to what she wants to do. To your point, Anthony, it's just like, let's have a little bit more detailed as to what this whole policy or initiative is about. And I don't know. I'm a little concerned, obviously, happening just 21 days before election night. And I cannot believe we're only 3 weeks away from tonight where the election comes into play. But all in all, I think the big takeaway here, though, is that if I had to ask you guys, which you answered, who's better, Kamala or Donald Trump with regards to cannabis, and you both agree that it's Kamala right now and some of the stuff that she's done. Didn't you say that, Anthony? I thought you said that.
No.
Yeah, I thought you said in so many.
I said Kamala has more tangible things on her track record.
But you're not going that far.
I said I couldn't tell you who's better for cannabis because they both are. I don't believe either of them.
Yeah, and I need an asterisk next to mine. I'm only saying for the short-term bump of the general public versus cannabis stocks.
All right, gents. Well, good show. Good to be back. Thanks for all the people reaching out too with regards. Family is nice and healthy. Daughter had a little bit of a health scare, but she is stable now and all is great. But that why I was off last week. But I appreciate everybody for understanding. And Anthony, glad that you're great too with obviously the hurricane gone. And here we are, onwards and upwards. Dan, good to see you last week in Chicago. Thanks for checking in. Yep. And gents, enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll be back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
See everybody tomorrow.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. What'd you all think the latest live stream? We are only weeks away from the big presidential election. Who's going to win? What kind of impact is it going to have on the cannabis space? We're going to know in a few weeks. So, as usual, we'd love to get your feedback. Leave lots of comments below. Make sure to smash that like button. Share this video with your network. And as usual, as I always say, if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to our channel because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.